Back to Fire Princess Reviews. I'm Fire Princess Lily here to talk to you about comics, cartoons, and other awesome nerd things. So, what are we talking about? Well, if you watched the last video, and hopefully you did, we're still talking about Adventure Time. Hence the shirt. We're going to be talking about the themes of the last episode and basically problems people had with the way the show ended. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it. It's fun, or it's not fun. One of the two. It's fun for me, so it's fun for somebody, right? I don't know what I'm saying. I kind of always know what I'm saying, but here we go. It's just a steady stream of conscious thought. So let's get into it. So let's talk a little bit more about the themes of the final episode, which we sort of touched on a little bit in the last video, but let's kind of refresh on that just a tiny bit. Whew. Or maybe more than a tiny bit. We'll find out as I talk. So, this is what happens. The theme is, and I really hope I hammered this home last time, is that things change. And the more things change, the more they stay. And that's kind of been sort of the theme of Adventure Time for like the last season or so. Is that, yeah, things are going to continue to change, but it doesn't mean it's bad. Or that it's even necessarily different because, well, it is different because it's changing. But everything that you want is still there. It's still there. It's waiting for you. A great song is In the Garden from the Fangs miniseries, which says, everything's still waiting for you right where you left it, just a little upside down. And that is, things change, but they're there. And I think it's a really interesting theme for a children's cartoon. I know that the show has been running for a long time. A long time. And so it's kind of grown up with its audience a little bit. And so I guess the themes have changed a lot. Because it went from a very, as I've mentioned previously in the last video, it went from a very low random humor, what's going on, like jokes, a second to an actually thought-provoking narrative that had like a really great story. I feel that first season of Adventure Time really was just setting up the world, and that everything after that really built onto an actual great, just meat and bones? I don't know. Meaty story. It's a meaty story. It's good. So I really like that. So that's the theme. That's the theme the show is going for. It's also going for some other things, like it's okay to be happy within yourself because that's important. It's important to find happiness in yourself because two people don't make a whole. You're two different whole people, and you do come together to make an entirely new experience, but you don't necessarily need other people to exist. Socialization's nice, having friends is good, but having yourself and being okay in yourself is super important. It's a hard lesson to learn. I try every day. People I know try every day. It's not exactly exact, but we're trying. And I think that was really good as well for Adventure Time to bring up and try to hammer home. So there's that. And I guess really the whole theme, if you boil it down to one word, is change, because the characters are changing, the landscape and scenes are changing. Well, I mean, that one's a little bit, but the changing of the characters, that's like the big one. When we look at where the characters started originally and where they ended up by the finale. A good example is Marceline, the Vampire Queen, who they really, they gave her a huge story arc over the entirety of Adventure Time. And so even though Finn and Jake were definitely the main characters and definitely the focus of the show as a whole, the screen time that it gave to the less important, less main characters, the side characters, I suppose, they really shed a lot of spotlight on them. Even BMO got like a really dope arc at one point, and it's good. It's good. I really enjoyed Bemo's whole story and how he sort of grew up a little bit. But let's get into kind of why, if you're still watching the video, what you're here for, I suppose. Because like I said, I already talked about the themes a little bit in the last video. Let's talk about the problems. And really, the problems sort of all center around Finn, more or less, and how people feel that his character arc wasn't complete. And I think, personally, that's a load of bullshit. That's just, there it is. Boom. Hot tea. That's a load of crap, but we'll get kind of into that. Sort of. I talked about in the last video how people didn't much care for the flashback aspect of the final episode, and I also already talked about how I think that was a good, strong tie-in to the narrative of everything changes, but the adventure continues. Sure, Finn and Jake's adventures on screen are over, but it doesn't mean that the adventure has to stop. We can always imagine the new characters, this Shermie and Beth, and what they might do. In fact, I actually, went on the wiki and did, a lot of, read-up on, Beth. They don't just call her the Pup Princess for no reason. 1,000 years in Ooh, there's a pup kingdom full of Jake's descendants, and it's ruled by Gibbon, which is actually Jake's immediate grandson, who has immortality because of the ice thing. And apparently, he rules with an iron fist. He takes away pup powers at his leisure, usually at birth. And so Beth is actually royalty in the pup kingdom, and she's exiled herself as she's an enemy of the state because she doesn't agree with what Gibbon does. So I really would like them to, if they made more episodes or another show, I would really like to find out about that character and her story and how she became, friends with Shermie and why they live in Marceline's old house. I think that's all super interesting, and I hope that someday we find out about that. But it's nice to think about. It's nice to kind of wonder how that possibly could have all come about. The little excerpt of the Pup Kingdom kind of looks sort of like the Candy Kingdom, so I wonder if it's there in its place. I don't know. So people didn't like Beth, they didn't like Shermie because they were characters that, why are we spending time with these characters in the finale? And it was really more about the theme and tying back into the theme. Boop. Problems with Finn. Here we go. We're going into Finn stuff. Like I said, I had a really good Finn rant coming up. And maybe I do, maybe I don't. My energy's a little low. But we're going to get through this. We're going to truck. So, first real big problem that people have with Finn in the finale. If there's two real big problems that people have with Finn in the finale, and we're going to touch on them both. I keep repeating myself, but that's fine. The first big problem that people seem to have is they say Finn didn't do anything. He didn't fight in the war because he stopped the war. So that was something I've already mentioned in the previous video, that he stopped the war. So he did a lot. He helped Fern come to terms with who he was and helped Fern free himself from that weird grass demon. And even though that caused Fern's death and eventual rebirth back into the Finn sword, which, as we found out, Finn never picked back up because he was done fighting, which was amazing in and of itself because he started out as a character that would only fight. And that's called character progression. And it's good progression. It's a natural progression for somebody who's seen many battles, many wars, is that maybe they don't want to fight anymore. And that's realistic. Maybe it's not the decision you liked, but you don't have to like it. necessarily. You're like, well, then why would I watch it? That's fine. That's fair. You don't have to like the choices necessarily that a character makes. The choices just have to make sense to their motivations, to their own character. Like Finn's fucked up. He has seen a lot, he's fought a lot, he's been through some shit, and it makes sense that his motivation is, how can I be less broken? How can I not fight as much and go through even more shit that's just going to pile and compound on top of already what I'm feeling and the brokenness inside of me. Like, we all met Finn's dad, right? He's the fucking worst. He's the worst. Like, yeesh. And Finn does not want to be like that. He doesn't want to be this junk garbage person who abandons everything. But he doesn't want to necessarily keep fighting and keep hurting people. So he needs to find another way. And I feel that his options and the way he did things were earned. It's not like Deus Ex Machina, because he already had the nightmare juice from before Elements, just before Elements at the end of Islands. So, there's that. People ask, well, okay, so we didn't fight in the war. That's fine. But he didn't, like, fight any of Golb's monsters. He didn't stay behind and, like, defend his friends. And that's a whole other thing. That's not what Finn was there to do. He wanted to stop Golb. And fighting Golb's monsters doesn't necessarily stop Golb. And that's why he was so obsessed with Normal Man and how can I fix this? What do I need to do? I'm Finn. I'm the hero. That's what I need to be doing. I need to be stopping Golb, and how can I do that? And even though Finn necessarily wasn't the answer, he definitely did what he's going to do. Like, how do I explain this? Yes. Finn actually could have stayed behind and fought monsters, and he kind of would have gotten the exact same results that he did with what he did. But all the same, that's not necessarily what he wanted to do. He wanted to fix the problem. And so he watches Betty and Simon get swallowed by Golb, and rather than say, well, mathematical, guess I'll go fight some monsters since that avenue is busted, he jumps in to save them, which is exactly what Finn would do. Like I said, his motivations just need to make sense to his character, to his actions just need to make sense to his motivations. Let me repeat myself again. And that is perfectly within the realm of his motivations of, I'm not going to necessarily fight and kill anymore. I'm about saving people. That's what I want to do. I want to help people and save them. So, it's true. Him jumping inside of Golb accomplished nothing, necessarily. The same outcome possibly could have been reached with just Betty and Simon in Golb, but maybe not. Because, okay, work with me here. Here's why that might not have worked. Yes, absolutely 100%. Absolutely 100%. They probably still would have sang the song. It all just kind of depends on where Finn would have been versus where Jake was, because Jake was motivated by Finn's actions to fight the monsters by himself. And it ended up with the treehouse getting totally destroyed. And for Jake to be there to witness it. And then for BMO just to sing the song and eventually... And it's kind of like interconnecting dominoes. And maybe if Finn wasn't inside Golb, he would be fighting the monsters. And then maybe he'd be dead. And that necessarily doesn't motivate Jake, which doesn't bring us to BMO, which doesn't bring us to the song, which doesn't bring us back to Golb. So, I think, narrative-wise, Finn's actions make sense and are the only conclusion for how that could have turned out. Finn was not going to ever kill Golb. Golb can't die. It's a being outside of understanding reason, physics, time, space, all of that. That's why Finn almost gets eaten by Gulp in that whole Pillow Kingdom episode, is because even though it was like a weird fantasy thing that kind of didn't actually happen, or maybe it did happen, we never know, Gulp could still affect Finn in that way because Gulp is chaos incarnate and everywhere. So that's why I'm not mad about Finn not fighting Gulp's monsters, not fighting in the war, because it all makes sense, and I don't understand necessarily how people have trouble seeing that. A lot of people feel that the creators hated Finn and just made him stupid, but instead, that's not what they did. If you pay attention, they made him more thoughtful and more careful with his actions, especially since his actions had consequences. Lots of consequences. Like, for instance, Susan Strong getting, like, real fucked up. Real messed up. Before the whole islands thing. Like, that's on Finn. That's why it's one of the things that was haunting him in his memory box, is because that was his fault. And he lives with that. And he doesn't want to cause things like that anymore. Alright, so moving on. So I got, like, 3 minutes to wrap it up. Finn not ending up a Flame Princess. This is like the biggest complaint people have. And boy, this is a good rant. Hopefully I can do it real fast. That's a terrible relationship. It's okay that they got together in the first place. And yes, it wasn't bad. It was super cute. All fine. Examples. Until Finn manipulated Phoebe into fighting the Ice King. And he did so in a really terrible way. He took all her insecurities, put them in a letter form, and handed them to her, claiming it was from Ice King. Sure, Ice King never ever got that letter or saw that letter, but that was a lot of emotional turmoil to put the girlfriend he cares about in that situation, just so he can have some kind of weird cosmic owl dream. Like, that's not cool. That's manipulation. And even if Phoebe forgave him, and she did, like, they're friends now, that doesn't mean they need to end up together. Because sometimes you can forgive somebody for something they do to you, but still not want them in your life. Like, sometimes people screw up, and they can be as sorry as they want, but it doesn't fix the mistake they made. Finn can never take back what he did to Flame Princess, and she realizes that he is not who she thought he was. She thought he was above manipulation and above that kind of action, and he proved her dead ass wrong in the worst possible way, using her insecurities, fears, and things she hates about herself to make her do what he wanted. And so that's a deep, deep cut. And even though Finn is truly sorry, he does apologize. He apologizes like twice. Like once, well actually 3 times. Once immediately, once when he goes to visit her and try to win her back, and then another time way after that when he realizes, I don't need to win her back because sorry doesn't fix things, sorry doesn't change things. I just need to actually be her friend, and so that's why. And maybe one day Finn will end up with somebody, maybe Huntress Wizard, for example, but the ship with Phoebe has super duper sailed. It is done. FP is gone, and that's okay. They're friends. And as I said previously in this video and in last video, it's okay to be alone. It's okay to just have your friends. You don't need to be in a relationship. A relationship's nice. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I don't enjoy being in the relationship that I'm in, because I love it. But I also learned how to be okay with just me. and friends, and not necessarily needing another person to complete me because I'm already whole. Sure, there are cracks. Sure, there are times where I don't necessarily feel the best about myself, but I know how to live with me. I know how to be okay with me. And that took a lot of hard work and looking inside myself to find those things I like about myself that allow me to exist with me. So there's that. And so I think Finn's really come into his own in that regard, is that he's in a happy place and he knows he doesn't need somebody else to make him happy. He's good. And I think that's important. I think that's a really important lesson to put out there, to show to kids, because in today's society, we have a lot of, well, you need to be in this relationship. This person needs to be a part of your life in this way. You're not complete unless you're two people, because every other person has another person out in the world for them. And if they're not together, then they're not who they're supposed to be. And that's just maybe not the best message to convey to anybody, but especially impressionable children. And so the lesson of Finn being okay by himself, with himself, that's a good lesson. Let it be. Don't be outraged that he didn't end up with Flame Princess, that he didn't end up with anybody. Life's a journey, and he is still on his, and maybe one day he will meet somebody, but for now, he's good. And that's good. We'll find out, more as soon as the comics arrive. It's taking place right after the Great Mushroom, or the Great Gumball, the Great Gum War. So I look forward to reading that. I look forward to seeing how the story progresses. I don't know that there'll ever be another Adventure Time cartoon or more episodes of Adventure Time, but I feel like it ended at a great spot, show-wise, and it gave us some really good lessons and messages in its ending, and it's good. So that's all I've got. That's all I've got for this whole thing. I went into 23 minutes, holy crap, of talking straight, just a steady stream of consciousness, as I always do. But yeah, what are we going to talk about next time? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I've been watching a lot of BoJack Horseman lately. I don't think we're going to talk about that. It's super fucking depressing. It's really depressing. So we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But until then, I'm Fire Princess Lily. This has been Fire Princess Reviews. And until next time, love comics, love cartoons. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!